Welcome to Life in Sirens, Behind and on the Scene, a podcast by first responders. We're your hosts, Sophie,
Jamie,
and Aubrey.
The content provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policies or positions of any medical institutions, emergency medical services, or healthcare organizations. Patient privacy is a top priority, and all discussions involving real-world emergency situations are de-identified and altered to ensure confidentiality. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional or your local EMS protocols before making any decisions regarding patient care or medical practices. Listener discretion is advised, as some topics may include discussions of real-world emergency situations. Leadership does not start in an office. It doesn't start at a desk, and it doesn't start with policy. Leadership starts in the truck. It starts with how you show up on shift, how you talk to your partner, how you handle stress, how you respond when things don't go your way. Think about the best leaders that you've worked with, not the loudest. Professional maturity means that 1, you regulate yourself before trying to regulate the scene. You don't let ego drive your decisions. You can take feedback without becoming defensive. You know when silence is leadership. It also means understanding that gossip is not leadership. Chronic complaining is not leadership. That's above my pay grade is not leadership. Welcome to another episode of Life in Sirens, where me, Obs, and Soph are going to sit and chat about leadership, growth, and preparedness. I want to talk about how in EMS you can move towards a supervisor and administrative roles, and how really that starts in the truck.
100%. So our goal is to kind of have an open conversation about our experiences, how we kind of model leadership, and how this may change for every person in every setting. Leadership is what you model when no one is formally evaluating you, and people are watching, even when you think they aren't, right?
They always got eyes on you.
If you have been following us, something we talk about often and something I talked about at EMS World was the B.O.N.D method. And we think it's a pretty easy way to kind of have truck level leadership and administrative level leadership. And it's a good way to kind of put these things into practice in a simpler way without kind of losing sight of what your personal mission is, if that makes sense. Kind of keeping your values and your goals in mind. So, yeah. Aubrey, do you want to kind of talk about what B.O.N.D represents?
Yeah, so B.O.N.D stands for balance, openness, nurture, direction. Okay, so let's start with balance. So what we mean by that is fair expectations and consistent support. Openness is saying what needs to be said early and often. Nurture is mentorship instead of micromanagement. And direction is providing a clear purpose that everyone understands. This is not dismantling the chain of command. This is reinforcing it with stronger links. This is about replacing fear with function. When leadership is present, feedback flows. When direction is clear, resistance drops. When people feel seen, they perform better.
And that's kind of the whole point, right? Like, whenever we talk about leadership, we think of administrators only. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a huge disconnect between field crews, supervisors, and like office administration. A lot of the time there's this kind of I don't even know, like unspoken fight. Like field crews are just complainers and lazy and uneducated, and then the field crews are like management, they don't get it, they're so out of touch, things like that.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to start teaching leadership in the field setting, and that's why B.O.N.D works so well, in my opinion. Is
Absolutely.
That it can be applied to work, truck, personal life, pretty much anything.
Right. I feel like, so like the balance part, I think the balance is something that people have the hardest time understanding, is that you have to balance both being present and being able to compartmentalize. Like, everything in your life requires balance.
Yeah.
And we kind of forget to do that on the truck. And it doesn't mean that you don't care. It means that you care with intention.
Yeah.
And I like that concept a lot because you have to be compassionate, but not take everything home with you. And then you have to work hard, but not to the degree that you run yourself into the ground. You have to know when to push yourself, but you also have to know when to rest and pause and take breaks.
The hardest one.
Right? And so when you're unbalanced, you, like, leaders run hot, and they often happen to be, like, really reactive.
Yeah.
And I think we see that a lot in EMS is we have very reactive management that waits until shit hits the fan. And then they're like, oh gosh, policy,
Right.
yell at everybody. When we could just be a little bit proactive and see some things coming. And I think that that's where balance really thrives, is to be able to navigate both aspects.
100%. It's kind of like making a cake. And if you clean it up as you go, your kitchen gets way less chaotic and you know where all your ingredients are. If you wait till the very end to clean up, you're going to be spending a lot more time mopping up
Absolutely.
and doing damage control than you would have if you just cleaned up as you go. When we talk about balance, I know that we're kind of here to talk about leadership, and I want to hit all aspects of leadership, right? Ground level, supervisor, and even administrator. Jamie has a unique position because Jamie is an alternate supervisor, which means many days she is a field crew member, just like the rest of us, where she's running calls on her ambulance with her partner. But there are days when she steps into the role of supervisor. And I actually think this is such a unique perspective that you get because you do have to switch back and forth. Can you tell us, like, kind of like the hardest thing to balance when it comes to going back and forth between those roles? I know that's a big loaded question.
I think so. What I've realized is the toughest part for me is to balance to what extent I am now involved in patient care. And so when I'm on the truck, like, my biggest responsibility is our patient.
Yeah.
And so that is where my brain is. That is where all my energy goes. That's where my hands are. And then when I'm a captain, my biggest responsibility is the crew on that scene.
I think that's really important for you to highlight that.
Right. And so that's what changes, is that my responsibility, their responsibility is to the patient. My responsibility is to them. And so now I'm no longer diving into patient care. I'm making sure they have what they need. They have all the information that they need. And if they need help with patient care, sure. But I have a hard time remembering that my leadership role is not to take over that call, is to support them. And that's, like, the most valuable aspect of having, like, a captain on scene, is that you have support, not that they're there to run it for you. And that transition sometimes is really hard for my brain because it is a very different aspect. I have to, like, hold things in my hands so that I don't touch too many things.
That's why the alternate supervisor, like, kind of setup that your ground service has is really beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just plot people in supervisor one day and say, congratulations, you've been promoted. Obviously, you do it. Your role is a promotion, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But doing both things simultaneously, just, I think it gives you so much perspective, and, like, it really grounds you, and it kind of gives you, like, this wake-up call that, like, you're not removed enough from being a truck crew member to forget about the things like, I wouldn't want someone to come in here and just take over. I want you to support me, right?
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that you said that, like, you're a support role.
Yes. And I learned, honestly, from our supervisors on our shift, I learned that from them, because they don't come into your call and micromanage you.
Yeah.
They come in and they're like, what do you need? What can I do for you? And they've always been really good at that. And then once Austin transitioned over to being a captain, I watched him transition into that role really well. And being able to be like, no, like, I'm here for you guys, whatever. And sometimes I'm like, Austin, tell me what to do. And he's like, I'm here for you, Jabe.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, but it's so funny because now that I transition into that role, sometimes I have to make sure that my brain knows that, like, you're a captain today, which means
It's hard.
your responsibility is to your crews, and it's not necessarily to the patient, because that's their responsibility. And hopefully, if you all follow your roles and responsibilities,
Yeah.
it ends up in really, really good patient care.
And I'm
But
sure
it's tough to
there
switch.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I imagine, so we talked about balancing between the two. What about having to correct someone?
Oh,
That's so hard. And that's why I want you to
Correct-
talk about it.
yes. Corrective action when you're in a position that, like, is now a position of authority, but then next shift you're going to be back in a field position,
It's scary.
is really strange, because you are trying to bridge this gap of like imposter syndrome. Like, do I even have a right to be like, hey, you need to fix this? What I've found is that people respond much better to you if you come from a place of caring and not a place of ego.
Ego kills everything.
Absolutely.
Including patience.
And it's taken me a few years of doing this role to like build that respect, like mutual respect between like crew members, to where when I have a suggestion or when I have a concern, people are willing to listen.
Yeah.
But you have to approach it in a way of like, hey guys, I had some concerns on this call. Can we sit? Can we chat about them?
100%.
Instead of come to this office.
Meet
you
me in
know?
my office.
Yeah, I find that I have to be much more casual about corrective action
Yeah.
because of my position. So I can't come in with a very like authoritative tone. It has to be way more casual and from a place of like, I just want to chat about this and make some suggestions, because I don't have that role permanently.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dynamic because technically they could be like,
Yeah.
I don't care what you say.
You're my boss.
Yeah, so you have to approach it in a way that makes them like, one, either curious about what you're saying or ask questions as to like why what you're suggesting is correct. You know, you have to present it in a way that makes their brain start to work and not get defensive.
For
and
sure.
that makes it much more challenging and kind of scary. Sometimes I'm like, I could just not.
Well, yeah.
I just probably don't have to say anything. I'll just let Austin do it next shift. And then I'm like, no, you gotta talk to him.
It is hard, right? But even as like truck crews or if we're on the aircraft or whatever it is, like sometimes, so when we are in those roles, right, it's not quite as intense, I suppose, as a supervisory role, but there are times when we have to correct people on scene and make sure that things are running smoothly and that all the members of the team are doing what they need to do. And that's even scary. And we get this question a lot, is like, how do I be in charge? How do I tell people what to do? Which I know, Jamie, you said that like, you have a little imposter syndrome and maybe you feel like you don't have a right. But even on the truck, you have a right, right?
Yeah.
Like, your supervisor's not always there to say the hard things.
Right. And I will say that it is much easier to say the hard things. Initially, I was talking about maybe more like after the call, addressing like changes, but on a call when you need to correct action.
That's scary.
It is.
Always.
It's honestly so much easier when you're in a supervisor role because you have the white shirt. It is like the power of the white shirt. Like, it works with crews. It works with patients. Like, you just say words and people are like, oh, got it, check.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to be like, you do this.
Fallacy of authority.
Right.
Look the part. Hear the part.
It really is. From a crew role, it's harder because you're all in blue.
Yeah.
People don't always listen to you. Sometimes you have a hard time with other responding agencies trying to like kind of freelance and do what they want. I find that the more clear and concise you are, the much better chance you have of people listening to you. Use their name or make literal physical contact with them when you're talking with them.
Touch their shoulder.
Yes. Punch them. No. Put your hand on them to like some degree, like on their arm, shoulder, whatever it is, to be like, I'm speaking to you right now. And that helps a lot when you're in a chaotic environment to like really like lock in their attention span.
If shit is hitting the fan.
Yes. Your communication has to be very intentional and very direct.
Yeah.
I find that women just like get on board with the fact that like male crew members of other agencies are going to think you're a bitch.
Yep.
Like, it just is what it is. Even if you are kind and you try to communicate in a way that's
we call
offensive.
That the ego killing the mood. Okay.
Yes.
Don't let your ego kill the mood, dudes.
For sure.
And
so
women, but
if you're trying to be direct and clear and concise, just know that sometimes that's going to be how people take it. But just explain yourself.
Yeah.
I always will be like, hey guys, I'm a little intense.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You
I'm
always
not
give
even
that
intense
caveat.
and still like,
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, whenever I have to correct something, it took me a long time to just not redo it myself or whatever. It took literally something bad happening.
Mm-hmm.
It took like a scary situation, which there was no negative impact to me, that person, or the patient, but it took it took us getting so close to the edge before I learned that I had to. It was my responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want other people to have to get to that point, but learning that balance of I need to be assertive, I need to be clear, and I need to be kind is
Yeah.
definitely a learning curve that just takes repetition. And I also think that, like, if you run your calls the same way every time, and this is your expectation, and this is how we do things on our ambulance, on our aircraft, those co-responding agencies or crew members or partners are going to know exactly what the expectation is.
Yeah.
So I definitely advocate for having, a process.
Yeah.
I know that you guys have a process. Me and Ashley had a process. And whatever crews got on our truck with us, they knew the process. So losing track of things in the chaos and losing track of your process can really derail the situation. And if you can just be methodical, then most of the time balance is just like a outcome of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would, if you guys have not put this together yet, me and Jamie are partners on the truck. We have very different command styles on calls, and I think that it took me a minute to kind of find my footing in how I would do that, because me and Jamie had been partners for a long time before I got my medic. And I think in my brain, I was like, okay, when I get my medic, I have to do A, B, C, and D, because that's how Jamie does it. And then I very quickly realized that that is not feasible for me. One, I'm not very good at it. Two, it left me feeling less than adequate because I wasn't good at it, and I feel like I didn't get my point across, and it left me feeling terrible about the call, about myself, about all of the things. So I think my biggest advice that I can give is that, number one, there is no cut dry answer to you have to do step 1 through 3 and that's how you command a scene. It's not that easy. I wish it was. Unfortunately, it is not.
And that's why we're here today.
And that is why we are here today, sitting on a couch talking about it. I think that you have to find your own voice. And by that I mean, I know that's very cliche, but by that I mean you have to know yourself well enough to know what works for you and how you are able to communicate with others. Because I'm telling you right now, when it is Jamie's call, it is very different from when it is my call. And it might not feel very different to people on the outside, but if you watch us, it is very different. I am much more, I will touch your shoulder and be like, hey, can you do this? While Jamie she has the ability to stand at the front of the truck and she will have everybody's attention. I am not like that. That is not my personality. It does not work for me. So if you are feeling like you aren't there yet, just know that there's hope, and just really sit down and figure that out about yourself, because it's in there.
You have to
can do
find
it.
your own approach. Like, I watch you when you interact with other crew members and you need people to do what you need them to do. You approach it like, hey, friend, and are like, you talk softly to them, and like that is how you command, like that's how you make your presence known. Mine is very like, hey, everybody listen up.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing.
Well, and it matches personality.
It does.
Absolutely.
And that is how, like, that's how my brain works. I fill all of the space. I talk through the entire call. I don't let other responders basically fill that space with things that don't need to be getting done right now. And that's how I command a scene. And then, so if I watch you actually get quieter so that they have to try harder to listen to you.
I didn't know I did that until I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. And it makes, like, it literally brings down the tone of the scene because everybody gets much calmer because they're trying to hear what you need them to do. And you'll address people directly. You'll be like, hey, James, hey, I need you to go over there and it'll get quieter.
like saying people's names.
Yes. And I will have to get closer to you, which will
it's connection.
inevitably, it brings down the tone of the call because I'm like, oh, I need to hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And all of those approaches work, every single one, but they're all geared towards our personalities.
Absolutely. And I think balance for each person, obviously we've said this, looks different. And I think miscommunication happens in this area in command and leadership when we feel like we need to go outside of our personality to be in charge. And that's where people are like, oh, well, you were being a bitch. It's because you do not normally act. You're not normally loud. You're not normally, like, assertive. And I was trying so hard to be that person for a long time that I just realized it still doesn't work. So I just I flowed with my own personality and said, you know what, like, sometimes loud isn't better. Sometimes it is. I want to say that sometimes we do need to
Sometimes
There
you
are
do have to
times.
crank out the
Everyone
volume.
pause.
Yeah.
I do that one sometimes. But
Yes.
like, don't go way outside your personality. Don't feel like you have to become
Yeah.
someone else to be a leader. You are already a leader. You just need to step into it.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Could not agree more.
The only thing to me that like defines who I'm willing to listen to and follow on a scene is confidence.
Yeah.
If somebody is confident in what they're doing and the care they're providing, you can tell in the way they carry themselves, in the way they present themselves, in the way they discuss whatever intervention they want to do.
Yes.
And confidence for me, I'm like, got it, I will follow you.
Yeah.
If you can figure out your confidence, not ego, not pride, just
Cocky.
confident in your own capability,
Yeah.
then your leadership, your natural leadership aspects they'll come out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You don't have to be boisterous to let people know that I am the real deal and I know
For
what I'm
sure.
doing. So we've talked about kind of a supervisor type role. We've talked about, our roles as field crews,
Mhm.
and what balance looks like in leadership for those positions. What about when we talk about administration? So I have this too, this page. So balance is about implementing fair expectations and support. When we talk about that, implementing fair expectations, I think this one gets so lost in EMS. And it makes me very sad. So balance is fair expectations and consistent support. That's what it stands for, just to recap. So what does that mean on an administrative level? And we have talked about this in presentation style. We don't
Yeah.
think we've talked about it on the podcast.
Yep.
I think we really get lost with this one in EMS because implementing fair expectations, I think we've all been hurt by the outcome of
Mhm.
that not being upheld.
For sure. And I think to start, I think administration, and to be clear, when we're talking about administration, we're not talking about 24-hour or like field personnel, even
office.
like commanders, captains, like we're talking strictly office personnel.
Yes.
Um,
No clinical
involvement.
involvement.
Yeah. I think when we discuss administration, I think to start, I want to say that like training has failed them. Like at the onset, is that most of our administrators did not have the opportunity to be like properly trained
Absolutely.
on how to do any of this.
From field level
Yeah.
and beyond.
And so it truly was just like, oh, you're in a position where you've been here for X amount of years. You seem interested in this. You'd be decent at this. Let's put you in this administrative role. And there's no training on how to do that well. And I think so, like, from second one, I just want to say, like, I think that administrators were set up unfairly. But then moving forward, just because it's not your fault doesn't mean it's not your responsibility. So now we have to learn how to, like, be better. But I think
Yeah.
as far as balance goes, you have to be able to identify signs, as an administrator, you have to be able to identify signs of overload and underperformance due to fatigue and burnout instead of laziness,
Absolutely.
which is important.
That's hard too, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, is this provider just not trying hard enough, or are they just absolutely exhausted?
And that's why you set your workplace up for this balance. Like, you make sure we have the policy. So we're going to talk about policy really quickly. So, sorry, it's not going to be a snooze fest, though. One thing that I've heard mentioned a lot in EMS lately is workload equity reviews.
Explain.
So workload equity reviews would mean that we are making sure and we're analyzing how much workload per person, per crew, per shift, per truck is being distributed in a way that is healthy. And this is a very sore topic to approach. People get really upset, and I've been there, right? I was like, I am a hero medic. I run 24 calls in 24 hours, and I'm the best because I work the hardest and I do the most, and I have another job. And stop it. That is bad.
You're hurting your own feelings.
I hurt my own feelings for years,
Mm-hmm.
and it almost ruined me. So it's okay to spread the wealth in this situation, right? There should be no reason why there are crews that are running that many calls. Like, that's an
Mhm.
extreme example, but like, truly, if you can look at this, you can pull all this data, at least in many services, where you say, how many hours was this truck in service? How many hours was it actually like out of service? Because not out of service, but like
Like at base.
at base. and comparing that. If you do have crews, which this is not sustainable for a long time, guys. You may be great at it right now, but it is not sustainable for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So there could be a crew that is working those, 15 calls in 24 hours. And obviously this is not going to be, you can't say at one company that 15 calls is going to be the same amount as 15 calls at another company, because at one place you could be 5 minutes from the hospital, and one you could be 30 or an hour, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So just take this with a grain of salt. But I do think we need to evaluate this, especially when we see our crews fatiguing and we see them burning out. This is a good way to be like, okay, well, I can validate not only
Mm-hmm.
my decision to maybe take some time off or move to a different station for a while or whatever, based on workload equity reviews. Because I can see that as a provider when my supervisor comes to me and says, well, 22 out of the 24 hours for the last 2 months, you were running calls, you were doing stuff, and you were not at base.
Mm-hmm.
You are reasonably tired.
And you're like, oh,
that puts it in. It gives you, like, it's validating. You're like, oh shit,
yeah.
I've been working my ass off. You're right.
Which is really
From that perspective.
valuable information. And I like the way that you put it, like time in service and not versus time at base and not number of calls.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we have places in our county that if that truck runs 5 calls, that's like 16, 17 hours out.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if they run 5 calls, God forbid one of them has to go to like the big city.
Yeah.
The big city near us. But like these transport times are significantly longer.
Yeah.
Now, if we run 15 calls, it's a busy day, but our transport times are significantly shorter.
Exactly.
And so that our turnaround time, we could still have some time at base with 15 calls.
Oh, yeah.
So our turnaround time is much faster.
Yeah.
So like if one of our trucks is like, man, we ran 6 calls last shift, I'm exhausted. If I don't recognize that that is not the same time,
Yes.
that like their work equity actually is pretty equal to what we're doing, then I could be like, why are you being a baby? 6 calls is nothing.
Yeah.
And so it does matter. And like we have counties
100%.
surrounding us that
Like that too.
calls would take them an entire shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like it's important to remember that there's differences. That's why I like the way you put it. That
Yeah.
it's a work equity review, not like a call volume.
And it's not like a punitive thing either, but like if you have someone say that's calling out a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and you pull this information before you go to sit down with them or to talk to their supervisor or whatever and say, dang, it's probably because they're freaking tired.
Yeah.
How can we improve their work-life balance by making sure, maybe for a few shifts, a few weeks, or even permanently, that this person may need a place. We all have different capacities. We
Yeah.
all have different windows of tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
So like, we may need to there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing less than for it. Sometimes we just have to change
Yeah.
things up, and it gives your provider who may be burnt out some validation in the fact that they have been working their butt off.
Yeah.
And you can even do it in a way of like ALS calls versus BLS calls. Maybe this poor paramedic is with an EMT, and that EMT has not run a single call all week because every single one has been ALS.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just a good way to support your team with data, because we are all sciencey people for the most
Yeah.
part in this field, and it does feel nice to be like, let me just show you why you might be this tired.
Right. And I think
Thank you.
I
I
think that
appreciate that.
not in those words, but and also maybe not even with that intention, but our service has done a few things that has helped kind of like even out the like work equity, is that like certain stations are encouraged to be double medic.
Yes.
And so that way you don't get yourself in that situation. It's not required. If you prefer to work with an EMT, you can. But it's encouraged to be double medic, which I think is cool.
And it's an absolute privilege, I will say, that
Yes.
we have that access
Yes,
here, right?
we do. And it is fantastic that we have the
Yeah.
staff and personnel to do that. And then also, like, we do a shift bid. And so it's based on seniority. So sometimes what you can handle and what you can get are very different things. But for the most part, once you get to a place where you're probably exhausted, you can bid yourself out to maybe a lower volume station, something like that. But you have to, an important part is that, like, balance-wise, you have to know yourself.
Please reflect on
Yeah, you have to know.
what is giving you energy and
Right.
taking.
One of our favorite humans on the planet, Zachy, he is going out to one of our slow stations, like one of our sleeper stations
Yes.
this year. And we were giving him the hardest time because he's leaving Burton and he's
Yeah.
running away from us. But he's got a wife. He's got 4 kids. He's been there at the same busy station for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, buddy,
Yeah,
go.
I don't know how he's done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
honestly.
like, buddy, go take a nap.
Go
Like,
take a nap.
he's exhausted. And he knew,
Yeah.
like, this was his
Yeah.
this was his balance. He was like, it's time for me to go
Yeah.
take a minute. And as sad as I am that he's going out there, I'm also like,
Proud of
Excited,
it.
good for
yeah.
you. Like, I'm proud of you that you
We're able
learned
to
that about
recognize that.
yourself.
Yeah.
And I do want to emphasize, since we've talked about kind of the validation and saying, oh, you've worked a ton, you do not have to earn rest. So if you're going through a lot, like we're not just paramedics,
Yeah.
right? We have whole freaking lives. You don't have to earn rest. If you need rest and you can please be able to identify it in yourself. So do some,
Yeah.
soul searching if you need to, but like you don't have to earn rest. And as a provider, if you need rest, please advocate for yourself. If you say, and I think we know as supervisors, you probably know your crews really well, especially if you've been with that shift for a while or whatever it is. You're not, for the most part, no one's going to be like, you're just being lazy, right? They can see how hard you've been fighting, whatever you've been fighting, whether it's the long shifts or it's something
Mhm.
personally, like, advocate for yourself and say, I need a break.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
Went to a slow, quote unquote, slow station,
Yeah.
slower than our station.
If you need a break, take a break.
Yeah.
Take a break. And obviously it depends on your service and their capabilities and, whatever it is.
Right.
But remember that if you are not in a good place, you're not good for your patients. So, like, the harder you push yourself and the more you burn yourself out and the worse you feel, you might not realize it, but your patient care is getting worse too.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yes.
don't do
Your
that.
compassion at least is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't do that to your patients. But I think where we got a little tangenty because, like, that's us.
Yeah.
But where admin is concerned, I think it's really important that they ask those questions and recognize that although they predominantly look at data and run reports and very, like, objective pieces of information, that same person that ran that horrible call or wrote that terrible ticket or run ticket, PCR, they also may be going through something horrible at home and they're exhausted and they're
Yeah.
burnout. Like, I think that admin sometimes forgets to ask those questions only because their degrees of separation
Yeah.
are significant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think that chain of command is important. I think it's important to then go to, like, for us, it would be the commander who then would go to their captain and be like,
I'm worried about so and so.
yeah, is everything good with them? Like, have
Yeah.
you noticed anything's different or off? Because we had this incident and it seems out of character for
Yeah.
them. It doesn't mean that they're not held responsible, but it does mean that you, like, care.
Yeah. We
And you
get to
show
the
up.
bottom of it, right?
Right. And I think that people respect their admin so much more when it's not just like, come into my office so I can yell at you. It's, hey, we recognize that there are some patterns that are not consistent with you normally.
Yeah. And we're worried about you. It's okay
Yeah.
to tell someone you're worried about them.
Yeah. So what's going on, bud?
Yeah.
Because this is not your baseline.
And if they
Um,
say nothing, I'm fine, at least they know somebody's worried about them and
Mhm.
they know now that you are a safe person.
Yep.
Because you showed them you care.
Yep.
I
And
can
then
tell you.
do what you got to do. Like our supervisor, she's a scary woman.
In a good way.
Yes, our commander. One of my favorite things about her leadership style, it's very different than a lot of people. Some people don't like it.
It is her personality, though,
It is her
guys.
personality.
She doesn't go outside of her personality.
No, she does not sugarcoat
No.
things because that's the kind of person she is. But if you get in trouble, like, you're in trouble. She'll call you into her office. She will either talk to you like a sweet baby angel. She will yell at you, whatever it is that needs to happen for you in that moment. And then it's done.
It's literally done.
It is all done. She'll
Because
be
we're
like,
grown-ups.
yes, she'll be like, anyway, how was your weekend? Like, she will literally look at you and be like, we're finished. How was your weekend? And it is a cool moment because you recognize that her care and, like, love for you
It's like
as
a parent.
human being,
It's
Yeah.
like a parent.
yeah, like, as a human, that has not changed because of whatever mistake you made. We have addressed what we needed to address. We have disciplined what we needed to discipline. And now, like, we can move on and be people again.
Yeah.
And I think that works really well for me.
And some people can't do that, and I'm not saying you have to. If you need to be upset and be like, I'll come check on you later as, like, a supervisor or something, that's
Yes.
okay, too.
For sure.
This
Some
is
people
just-
can't.
She's been doing it a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's good at it. But that works great for me because I am a human where I'm like, what if they're still mad at me?
Yeah.
I'm an
absolutely.
anxiety human. So I'm like, what if they're still mad at me?
And
What
most
if
of
they
us
hate me?
in this field are.
Right? And so to have that immediate transition where I'm like, oh, we're good. That helps
she
a lot.
is holding you accountable,
Mm-hmm.
and that also means she loves you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you just let people run wild, that means you don't care about them,
Mm-hmm.
your team, or the outcomes.
Absolutely.
Which is bad.
I will always tell, especially when we get new employees on our shift, I'll always tell them, they're like, she yelled at me. And I'm like, it means she cares about you.
Yeah.
Because if she does not address the mistakes you're making,
Written off.
yeah, it means you're written off,
Nothing.
and she does not think that you can meet the standard.
And
If
she
she's
doesn't think you're worth it.
Yeah. If she is addressing the mistakes you're making and having conversations with you, as scary as they can be, it means that she thinks you can do better.
And I think that brings up a good point. If someone's willing to sit down and have a conversation with you, if you are willing to sit down and have a conversation with someone, you're letting them know that I think you're worth it
Mhm.
for me to tell you how we can all be better.
And you can say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do not have to leave this open for interpretation. You do not have to be like, my action should imply my intent. No, no, no. You can sit down and you can say, I think you are worth it to have this conversation
Yeah.
so that we can all be better. Make your intention very clear.
Which
And
that actually leads us into the next one.
Yeah.
Openness.
Is our openness, which is making transparency the standard. So make your intention really clear. This is actually like a funny thing that Soph and I have to do, is that we both have a really hard time with tone, in that whatever I am feeling in the moment, especially in text, I will read their tone as that feeling. And I realized that I did that, and I was getting mad for no reason, because that was not the intended tone at all, but I took it that way. And so now what I started to do is whenever we have to have any kind of hard conversation, or a conversation that could even be like remotely, like just
I'm
more,
getting better at emojis too.
more
okay?
intense. Yes. I will either say like, my tone is this.
Yeah.
My intended
and it also
tone.
helps me.
Yeah. I'll say my intended tone is like kind.
There's no such thing as too much communication.
Right. And it helps so much because then
Yeah.
you read it in my like nice voice or silly voice or whatever it is, instead of my like angry, serious
Yeah.
voice.
Well, and I have a tendency when I have a lot of feelings to turn all of my emotions off and
Yes.
just say what the facts are,
Yeah.
which can come across as cold.
Right. And so like
No.
it now,
Just
instead
say
of
everything.
implying our intentions, now we just like say them.
Yeah, it's
which
kind
is
of like
great.
captions
Yeah, because now there's
in
no
the tone
Emotional
of jovial.
caption.
Yes, in a jovial tone. Yeah, because now there's no room for miscommunication, and it has made our communication so much better.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I never even realized that was a thing you could do until we started doing it.
Yeah.
And I was
Turns
like,
out.
oh,
Turns out
There's no
crazy.
rules.
there are no rules, and
the rules are made up,
adjust accordingly, right?
right? So as far as like strictly EMS, openness, so what are we talking about?
Like we said before, I don't think there's anything. Obviously, you don't need to air out your dirty laundry, but there in the policy way of things and like how we run the ship, there's no such thing as over communication. And when I say that, I just mean like often there's this divide with like field crews and administrators of like they're not doing anything for us. So even if you're doing things as an administrator and they're failing, tell your people that.
Yeah.
Like, we went to this meeting and we advocated for a raise. It didn't happen. We applied for this grant. It fell through. Like, at least they know you're doing stuff. You don't have to be successful all the time.
Yeah.
And it's also really refreshing for us to know that, like, you're just a human too, and sometimes you mess up. So if you mess up, tell us you mess up. In EMS, we're really bad at change. So explaining the why, I think, is really important. So, like, having a decision explanation clause. And I am really big on policy because then it's what we fall back on, right? When we don't know what to do, we can look to a policy or a protocol or whatever it is. That is what they're for.
Yeah.
I'm not saying every situation, like, use discretion, but having, like, a decision explanation clause, which is basically an all agency-wide changes brief. And we do this, right? And I don't know that everybody is doing it, but everyone should be doing it. Like, when the administrators have a meeting and changes are made or they're not made, you don't even have to make changes, but you are going and you're briefing your crews, whether it's an email or a newsletter or a shift brief, depending on the size of your service, if that's possible. Like, going out and talking to your people about basically the State of the Union,
Yeah.
but your EMS version.
Yes, like this is what we talked
This
about
is
in this
what we're doing.
meeting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that being the standard. And if you can't, which I would go down a rabbit hole, but if you can't get every field leader on board, like your supervisors and stuff, then start sending out a newsletter.
Yeah.
And if people don't read it, I prefer more personal interaction, but if people don't read it, that's on them. But at least
Yeah.
you're giving them the information, right?
For sure.
And I think teaching people how to communicate. Not all leaders
Yeah.
step into leadership roles
Right. It's
ready
one of
to know.
And it's one of the first things that we say when people are like, what's the most important aspect of leadership? Everyone's going to say communication. And then that's it. That's all we do after that. And so a part of like really just like the easiest role if you get into a leadership role is just like tell people the why.
Tell people. And that's literally our whole job, to understand the why of everything. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this med? Why are we doing this intervention?
Yes, and you've got a bunch of very curious, they're
going to make something up, okay?
Yeah, really nosy people. Like our job is really nosy. Like we are like just like wiggling our way into your lives.
Yeah.
That's our job. And so to have a whole service in the dark, like, oh, they are going to start coming up with some outlandish things.
Especially if something happens.
Yes.
If something happens and then a policy is changed, everybody's going to be like, Joe, paramedic Joe.
Yes.
He did this and that, and, you know, he got arrested.
Yes.
And that's why, this is all made up, guys, by the way. But, like, people will make stuff up.
Oh, people come
we
up.
just talked about that. People fill in the blanks. It's just what we do.
Yeah, they come up with crazy things. So if
So
you,
just tell them.
as I guarantee you, whatever the entire service is coming up with when they're left in the dark
worse.
is way worse than the truth.
It's way
Much
worse.
So
worse.
just tell them the truth. And obviously there is a time and a place where you got to keep the masses at bay, and like maybe your whole service doesn't need to know every single thing. But you have to be transparent, because what happens is that people think that you don't care.
Yep.
They think it's way worse than it actually is.
You're not trustworthy.
Yep, that you're not actually doing anything.
Yeah.
And it just is all about perspective. And if you give your crews a reason to understand your own perspective, like, hey guys, these are our concerns, these are what we're addressing, like, just wanted to keep you in the loop. Everybody loves to be in the loop.
They love it.
Nobody wants to be on the outs of the info. They all want to be in the loop, especially in our job. Everyone wants to be up in there.
Yeah, I want to know everything. Tell
Yeah,
me.
so keep them in.
Come
And I promise you, they
Give
will
me
be
the hot
way more on
goss.
board with any changes or anything you have to do if you're keeping them informed.
informed of the why. Most people are not averse to change. They're averse to blind change.
Mhm.
Like, we're doing this because I said so.
Yeah, no one likes that.
No, especially the personalities in this job. No, we're going to do everything we can to get around that now,
Mhm.
even if we inherently didn't disagree with you.
Yeah, even
Correct.
if we really,
and
100%.
we're really good at it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, like
Loopholes? We will
loophole.
find it.
There will be one.
Okay.
Yeah, if
So-
you tell your crews, like, just do this just 'cause, oh, even if they would have,
Yeah,
they won't
that's
now.
hilarious that you think that's going to work.
What did I said something to one of our admin the other day. I said they were trying to come up with a solution to something, and I was like, listen, I love a good loophole, and I've been looking at this, and like I can't find one. And he looked at me and was like, you what? You love a good loophole? I didn't know that. And I was like, that's how good
Everyone
I am at it.
knows.
You
Yeah.
have no idea.
You don't know.
Also, you not?
Yeah, and that is why, especially for EMS admin, like, you better find the closest, most direct route to whatever your outcome that you want. Because, like, the phenomenon that happens in cities where city planners did not use the most direct route to, like, an entryway or a doorway, and people create their own paths.
Yes, path of least resistance.
Yeah, so there will
guys.
be, like, a walking path through grass, because that actually made way more sense than where the sidewalk goes. I feel like that's EMS.
Correct.
Yes.
That is the perfect example. Admin will be like, all right, we're going to go this direction, and all your providers are like, oh, this makes way more sense, so we're just going to do this instead.
Yeah.
And if you do not figure that out as admin, your crews will.
And if you
Oh,
don't figure it
100%.
out or
Mhm.
don't have the interaction with field crews or the ambulance or patients enough to have the knowledge, and I don't mean that you're stupid. I mean that, like, you don't have the real time, like, experience.
Oh, yeah, like, it's truly not a part of
Right.
your job description
Yes.
anymore. Yeah.
No. So that brings us to feedback loops. So having some kind of formal process, whether it's quarterly, yearly, whatever, probably more frequently than not, but a survey or some kind of online form where, like, field staff, so truck crews, even supervisors, things like that, can give feedback without any fear that, so anonymous, essentially. You
Mhm.
don't have to be anonymous, but don't make it where they have to put their name,
Yeah.
where you can report things. And the number one reason, which this makes me so angry, that I hear that people don't want to do this is because they don't want to turn it into a bitching session.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, what are you so afraid of? A, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
B, most people aren't just going to fill out a form
To
that
complain.
they have access to all the time to complain.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
And in the event that they do, just
yeah.
filter it.
Yeah.
Just filter
let
through
it
it. If
go.
you, it is all about establishing patterns.
Yes.
So if you have an employee that has a pattern of complaining without any interest in correcting any of those issues, then filter it.
Yeah.
Like it is
just how it
very
is.
manageable. But I guarantee you will get useful information.
Absolutely.
And one of our admin's biggest complaints is that the field crews don't tell them things.
How do they tell you? They don't
Right.
see you.
It is like it has to be in an email or in a text or in a phone call or come to the office, or all of that sounds very daunting and intimidating.
It's not accessible.
And EMS is very much like, I don't know, like a little middle school rat pack, like
Yeah.
where we're like, hey, we ain't snitching.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so it is really hard to get field crews to comment on improper patient care or other employees for that reason.
Well, and you cannot have just culture. You cannot have it.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have just culture, and this is held down without anonymous reporting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You can't.
Mm-hmm. Because everyone is always, it doesn't matter how many times you tell people or how true it is that there will not be any retaliation. The fear of whoever they report, of someone being like, well, Jamie's the one that sent this to me,
Mm-hmm.
is going to keep people from telling you every single time.
Yeah.
I've had that personally experienced, but
Yeah.
like, and it's
Oh, me too,
It's
yeah.
terrible. Like, it's so
Mm-hmm.
like, how am I supposed to trust you?
Yeah.
Like,
And-
what do you want from me?
And that is tough. So I think that an anonymous feedback loop is absolutely like a non-negotiable.
And when you know what your teams need, this brings us to, we did not plan this out. This brings us to our next one, which is nurture. Mentorship over micromanagement.
Okay, so when we're talking about nurture, well, I think one of the biggest things that you need to have a foundation of is that everybody is on the same playing field, right? So every provider gets access to growth opportunities, so CEUs, training, mentorship, regardless of rank. So whatever the lowest licensure is at your service, all the way up to your supervisors, you all have access to the same training, and you're all held to that same standard, right? This also opens the door for like mentorship programs. So whenever you have a new hire that gets brought on, it's like classic EMS you get like 2-3 FTO rides, and they're like, yep, you're good. You have my seal of approval. Go out there and run the streets.
Run them streets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's especially, well, I don't know if humorous is the right word because it's a little concerning, but it's interesting when you compare it to other professions like nursing, who a new grad nurse or even just a new hire nurse
Mhm.
comes into a new facility, and their
Like the preceptor.
their preceptorship lasts like 6 months,
Mhm.
and that is in a facility with all of the resources and all of the people that you could literally just like snatch somebody from a hallway and be like, please come help.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an entirely different world than what we work in, where you are truly by yourself. You and your partner are out on the streets in a drainage pipe. Like, it's wild.
Drainage.
I mean, accurate.
Honestly,
happens.
Yeah, it does.
It happens. All of that to say, this would be a great mentorship. A mentorship program would be a great thing to look at, where you put a new hire with somebody who has been vetted, trained to mentor somebody new for like 6 to 12 months.
Mhm.
And I know that when you say like the 6 to 12 months in EMS, it's like a big shock factor. They're like, welcome to Jackass. But this kind of opens the door to be able to have them be partners and not have to pay that extra person, not have them ride thirds, anything like that. But they have that mentorship ability for
Mhm.
that next time allotment, to
Well-
where they don't have to be thrown to the wolves.
And like, that brings up a good point that I want to emphasize, is that you should not just drop a new hire into any, like, the empty spot. You might have to move someone to ensure that that person is getting the right, encouragement, the right
Mhm.
training, the right mentorship. Because just because this guy has his partner quit and now
Here you go.
he needs a partner, doesn't mean that he's the right person.
Right. And we've
for
talked a
this
lot
new hire.
before of like how like a mentorship program like ideally would be your FTO program. Right. But also like there are personality mismatches all the time. So like I cannot mentor somebody that does not match my personality. Like you have to
Yeah.
bond with someone that's mentoring you. And so like if y'all don't like each other, or like if you just don't fit super well, like mentorships have to be with two like-minded humans
100%.
because that's how someone learns.
And
They learn by somebody that's going to teach them the way they need to learn. And that's not necessarily going to be just like some random FTO that you get put with.
Well, I think you can have both, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to be an FTO to be a mentor.
Yeah,
Like,
I
it
agree.
could be like the pipeline, right? Like,
Yeah.
you apply to be a mentorship medic or a mentorship
Mhm.
EMT, somebody who knows your system really well, someone who, you know, is a positive force in your culture, things like
Yeah.
that. And you can still have your FTO process, right? For the
Mhm.
first few rides, you're with an FTO. They do the business side of things. They check
Get you all
you
squared
off.
away.
Yeah. And then when this person is released, now they're with one of your mentorship partners. And it could be an EMT or a paramedic,
Mhm.
because we don't always have the ability to put a new medic with a brand new medic, or a brand new medic with another paramedic
Yeah.
for their first 6 months or whatever. But having people who have to meet, I guess, like, you can't get everybody on board is what I'm trying to say. Like, you're
Yeah.
not going to have everybody at your whole service be so excited to be there, be so excited about teaching and being with somebody who needs to learn, and that is okay. I'm not telling you that you have to change every single person
Oh yeah,
overnight.
no.
But having a program where maybe, because it's hard to be an FTO, right? Like, you have to go to meetings, you have to do all this stuff
There's a
outside of the
big
truck.
time commitment.
Yeah, so maybe having this group of people be mentors, it makes it a little more accessible, and it opens up the group to have like a soft entrance into FTOs. So like,
Yeah.
you've been with new people,
Mhm.
you know what it's like to be partners with a new person, and then you can go step up to the FTO, because now you've known how to work with a new person
Mhm.
for an extended amount of time, hopefully,
Yeah.
and you know what their needs might be, and now you can learn how to be an FTO and actually train a new person from the first day.
And that would be like the coolest pipeline,
Yeah.
because it puts you in the shoes of the person that gets your new hire right out of FTOs in the beginning.
Yeah.
So you see the pitfalls, you see what they don't learn, you see what they should be
Absolutely.
learning. Like, you really get a like firsthand experience of things that need to improve. And then once you make it to the actual FTO aspect of the program, then you're like, oh, I got this, because I know exactly what is done well, what needs improvement. Like, it would be cool, because it's hard when you're training somebody new and they're on a truck with you and your partner, because you and your partner,
Yeah, it's not realistic.
right? And ideally, you and your partner have like a flow, right? And so to throw a third person in, they feel uncomfy. And as many times as you tell them, like, I'm not here, like, you just do your thing, like, it still doesn't feel that way. And what I've found, especially with training new hires, is that there is this like confirmation bias that they have, where you inevitably will basically ask a leading question. So you'll be like, would you like to put BiPAP on this
Yeah.
person? And they will be like, yes, I would like to do that.
Thank
And then
you
you'll
for
be
the
like,
recommendation.
Yeah, you'll be like, oh, great. Yeah, they're a good medic. They're squared away. They're
Yeah.
making the right clinical decisions, except for you've been suggesting the clinical decisions the whole
Yeah.
time. And then they get out on the street and people are like, why did you release them? They don't know what they're doing. And it's because of that weird dynamic.
Yeah.
And so like a probationary period where they are partnered with a mentor that can kind of like help mitigate some of those pitfalls
And that's
would
a
be
trusted
awesome.
provider that you know
Yeah.
that if they need to be remediated and maybe spend a few more weeks or days or shifts with that FTO,
Mm-hmm.
then they can do that. And you know that they're being realistic and honest about it, because
Yeah.
they're more vetted, I suppose.
It would be cool.
Yeah.
I think that it is an important note that you have to have a very robust and thorough hiring process to be able to pour this level of
Absolutely.
effort and care and compassion into your new hires, because they need to be people that are receptive to feedback, are receptive to growth, and want to become the best provider they can be. If you are hiring people that do not have that at the forefront of
Absolutely.
their mind, then a program like this is going to be more frustrating than it is helpful.
And we have gotten plenty of feedback on this question. Would you rather be understaffed or staffed with shitheads? Everyone says understaffed.
Everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Mhm. Everyone would rather pick up a shit ton of overtime.
Then work with somebody who
Then
is
work-
scary.
Is scary or mean.
Mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And you know what I found a lot most providers are the most concerned about? It's not that their partner's mean to them. It's when their partner's mean to patients.
Yeah, it's so awkward, bro.
Almost everybody is like, oh yeah, they're an asshole, but like whatever. But like they're fine with patients, so I don't care.
Yeah.
If they're mean to patients, it's the first thing that someone says. They're like, they're terrible to patients.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you work for a service that does not care about that, get out. Get out of
Run
there.
away.
get out of there.
Run away.
If a general understanding of your service is that none of y'all care about patients, then like you
Yeah, and more than just like
y'all gotta
you
get out.
said so and so was mean to the patients and they didn't do anything. It's more involved than that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, caring about the whole provider from the start. We want them to be here for a long time, not a miserable time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's not
Yeah.
supposed to be miserable.
No,
It's not supposed to be comfortable all the time, but it is not supposed to be just terrible all the time.
right.
So people don't stay because of policies, right? They stay because someone believed in them. I've stayed at places that treated me terribly because there were people around me that believed in me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So retention is a leadership outcome. So if you cannot put these policies into place and make sure that we are giving people the support they need, not everybody just sucks. So if you're at a service where like every new hire, they're just like, they just suck, they're terrible, all of these
Mhm.
new medics are so terrible. No.
No.
If everyone is the problem, you're the problem.
You're the problem.
Which, how do we solve problems? Let's move on to the next one, right? Direction.
Direction.
I think this is a great one. People like to know what the point is. Because everyone asks, what is the point? What is the point? There is one,
Mhm.
all right? Every year at your service, you should have a vision and a mission, right? Begin, either you do each calendar year or you do, which I think is more beneficial, or each fiscal year, whatever you decide to do, and meet with your team. You take, if you had that survey done, you take some of that intel from that survey and you make goals for the year. Like, our goal this year is to make sure that everyone has access to 2 additional ACLS class. It could be this simple, because there were people saying that there was not enough access on their days off to take this class. Okay, really simple things. This year, we're going to make sure that we prioritize first responder or EMS personnel mental health, and we're going to start working on a peer support program, even if it's not something established. Just let people know that you are doing things that matter within their system, right? You don't have to do anything crazy.
Absolutely. And for admins that are already doing that, write it down.
Yeah.
Write it down and tell your crews you're doing it. Our education director, in the last couple of months for the next calendar year of education opportunities, built like a very robust education calendar that will cover like everybody's needs. There's lots of access. There's a bunch of classes. It's put out well in advance. Like, he did a fantastic job. And he sent it out and was like, hey guys, this is your new calendar. But like, that is a goal. There's way more access.
Yes.
It is better for everybody.
You can plan around it.
Yes. And essentially, like, if a provider still cannot find a class that's accessible to them, it is very much a provider issue. It is no longer like a access issue.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that took weeks worth of work to like sit down and plan around all the things. And like, it was very just fleeting. Like, oh, hey, here's our education calendar. And I'm like, no, write that down. Like, that was a goal. Like, you guys just accomplished something like pretty significant to everybody.
Yeah.
So when you're doing like big things, tell your service you're doing big things. It will make them much more grateful for the effort that you put in.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I also think that it's important when we talk about direction to recognize that like most people in EMS are pretty neurodivergent. We're all like an ADHD adrenaline junkie situation.
Situation.
Yeah, most of us are, at least. And how many of you get like frustrated when like you can't recognize patterns, when you don't know like the ending before the beginning, when someone just starts talking about something and you can't identify what in the world they are speaking about? Like, I need the why, I need the what, I need the
how.
Yes, I need like, great, you can explain this 3-hour thing to me, but I need to know what what do you want me to learn? Like, that's what I need to know. Most of us are the same way. So if you're an admin that is just really just out there like freeballing it, and like your people do not have a clue what you're trying to accomplish, they're just like floating around in the abyss.
And it feels very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and they don't know how to help you.
Yeah, they don't know how to help themselves.
So if you can like nail that down and basically give all your neurodivergent little otters that are just floating about some sense of direction, like, hey guys, this is what we're up to.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh,
you guys care.
That's why you keep harassing me about this training. Or that's why our
Right, my annual
PCR software
compliance.
has 17 dumb buttons that we hate, because it's in an effort to get a grant based on these federal criterias.
100%.
Like that, when people know the why, they're way less frustrated with the work they have to do.
100%.
And I think that is important to remember, that our little brains get real grumpy when we're just floating around with no purpose.
Yeah, and it's just that, you want to talk about anxiety. Imagine someone yelling at you to get shit done, and you don't even know like what you're supposed to be doing, but they're stressed, so you're stressed, and like
Right.
that just is bad. It's bad culture. I've been at places where that is the culture, where someone's like, you need to do better, and you're like, how? What do I need to do better at?
They're like, you know how.
Yeah, so not only direction in the fact of like this is where our service is going. I think you need to even break it down to a smaller scale of like provider. Like you should do annual reviews of each provider.
For sure. And
I wanna know.
annual reviews, like, I mean, it can be down to, I mean, it can be like affect, it can be clinical, it can be like, hey, it seems like you are not providing or doing any skills on any of your calls. It
What's up
seems
with
that it's
that?
documented that everybody else is doing all the skills. Is that just your leadership like style? Is that you sit back and you direct?
Yeah.
Or like, do you want some more training? Like,
Yeah.
is this a gap in ability? It may not be. It may just be
Their
their
style.
leadership style. But like, ask questions. That could be cool. That could be like a good clinical goal. Like, all right, yeah, let's get you in like an OR and try to get you some innovations, because it seems like you're not very confident with that.
Absolutely.
Those would be great for reviews.
So I know we talked about a lot today, and we actually had more planned, believe it or not, but we just feel really strongly about this topic, and that's why B.O.N.D was created. B.O.N.D is an accessible way for any level of leader, from truck crews to supervisors to administrators, to kind of ground themselves in a way that they approach things. So balance, fair expectations, and consistent support. Openness, say what needs to be said early and often. Then nurture, mentorship instead of micromanagement. And then direction, a clear purpose that everyone understands. So, like most things, this all comes down to connection and communication, which is what we had planned for the rest of this episode, but we got a little long-winded. So we will talk about that in a few weeks, because we all know how important it is and how often it is skipped. But if you are wanting some urgent education on communication, there's an episode towards the beginning in our last season where Jamie talks about communication. She also does a presentation on this, so feel free to check that one out. We'll dive even deeper together in a few weeks. So stay connected, communicate with each other, and go do good things.
This has been Life in Sirens, produced by 3 nerds trying to bring you content that you might actually care about.